Holy crap. I got a lot of vegetables coming out of my garden, and I bet you do too. We're going to help you figure out what you can do with your harvest, maybe to make it just a little bit easier on you. Because, we like to take the effort out of gardening.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
One in the country.
One in the city.
And this podcast is a companion podcast to the upcoming documentary, Backyard Gardens, a documentary about two families growing food for the first time in a world that lacks nutrition. All right, Batavia. You ready?
Easy peasy gardening. That's what you promised.
No.
I forgot.
I got something to start off with. I got something. You
Wait,
ready?
I forgot. No, I took out a popsicle before we started. All right. I forgot about it. I was letting it thaw just a little.
This isn't an ASMR podcast, so you can't eat it while we do this.
I'll have to sit you down and then refreeze you, I guess.
All right, you ready? Knock, knock.
Ready. Who's there?
Pickle.
Pickle who?
You better go pickle your mom a little flower. Pick a little flower for your mom. Yeah, I screwed that up.
No, don't worry. When you got it right, it was pretty bad too.
Yeah, my son is obsessed with knock knock jokes, and he was, we try to come up with new ones, and he was saying, knock knock, who's there? Pickle. And I was like, pickle who? Pick me up and get me some pizza. I'm like, damn, you can't use it for your own benefit.
Pickle, pick me. No, totally not the same. Yeah.
No.
But is he 5? He's 5 or 6?
6 now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, don't put him back a year now. He'll get mad at you. He'll get mad at you.
I felt like I was being completely, I don't know, like, what's the ageist or something for kids? What is it? What would it be with? I don't know. There's something, because if you're not allowed to like ask older people their age, there has to be something about getting young kids' age right when you're dying to be older. So
no, you just can't ask women their age. That's the only rule to age.
Yeah, for a lot of years, I didn't care until I started caring.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. But before we start, seriously, Backyard Gardens Pod on Instagram. Check us out. Garden tips, clips, communication with Batavia and myself.
Yeah.
No separating. We're there. Yeah. Check us out.
We are united.
United front in the gardening community.
Mm-hmm. Here.
But this is a difficult one for me because what do you do with your harvest? Seems kind of easy.
Sit back, Ben. I'll take us through this. That's how you do me. Like, don't worry. I'll cover it all. Just relax.
But I can't keep my mouth shut.
Eat a popsicle.
Yeah. I can't keep my mouth shut, but...
Well, the reason why I like this topic is it's so connected to kind of what you like as an individual, what's probably common. There's probably some cultural elements to it, so I'm hoping to come away with, I didn't think about doing that with my harvest. That's
really?
What I hope I hope that's what you'll provide, because otherwise, new co-host.
Why is all the pressure on me?
Well, I'm certain you're going to come away with something like that from me. That's just
all
the confidence in my harvest use ability.
I hear you. Okay. So, I think that you can relate once you start harvesting and it really picks up. It can be overwhelming. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think the issue that we often find is, what do you grow? And then the immediate question is, what do you do with it? There's some things that are completely obvious, right? So tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers even. People don't have questions about what do you do with the staples, if you will, of many gardens. Yeah. I think there's two parts of the questions when you're growing things that aren't staples, and then when you have a shit ton of whatever you're growing. Like, what do you do with 10 pounds of okra.
Yeah.
I have just a quick note. I think I went with fewer okra plants this season, but who knows? Last season, I had so much okra, I was giving it away to like everyone. So my neighbor across the street, a really nice couple. And so this was probably in April of this year. He said, "Hey, I wanted to ask, what do you do with your okra?" I said, "Do you still have okra from last year?" He's like, "Yeah." They had frozen. I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Wait. Was it hard when is it still tough?" He's like, "Yeah, it was kind of tough." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to say go ahead and throw that out." He's like, "I just really don't like to throw out food." So I'm just like, you know what? Another couple of months, we'll have some fresh okra. I'll be sure to pick it in time, right? So like he knows ways to use it. I'm sure knows ways to cook it. What he was really trying to ask is, what do you do with it at this stage based on the, kind of the texture of it? So I think what we want to make sure we cover off on today is how do you use your veggies when they're in their prime, right? So there's some things.
If it's tough okra, you make thread out of it so you can sew stuff together.
I've never heard that.
No, I'm just
not
joking.
gonna do that.
I'm
Yeah.
totally made that up.
I'm not
But
gonna
that's
do
what
that.
it's
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
That's what it's like.
Yeah.
But no,
there is a recipe I did find for okra in particular. Like you leave it on the stalk and let it go bad. I think it's like some type of soup and or coffee or something like that. I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Yeah.
Well, seriously though, food waste is the number one form of energy waste in our country.
I think you've mentioned this to me before.
I probably have, and I probably mentioned it on the podcast, but it needs to be said again. And I know people are like, well, what are you talking about? Energy waste. Well, calories are energy. It's a form of it's a measurement of energy. So if you think about it that way, and then not only that, but it's also a waste of your energy because you grew it.
Yeah.
So, it's fun to sit back and think, man, I got 15 tomato plants out there, man. I'm doing good. But then when it comes down to it, what are you doing with your tomatoes?
Yeah.
And
I have a little bit of
important part.
Anxiousness around that.
If I were you, I would. That's a lot of tomatoes, man. Because what a tomato will provide you. What one plant will provide
absolutely. You. That's interesting because we won't talk about that today, but there were times where there are other vegetables, and there still are vegetables. I'm not sure how much to plant to determine, to get an adequate harvest. But for tomatoes, I think we're at 3 times the amount of tomatoes I grew last year. And for me, based on my planting, those tomatoes are generally going to come in at the same time. So I have some ideas about what I'm personally going to do with them and then how I'm going to use the harvest. But I think that you need to decide, if we want to dive into this, how much you're going to consume at home. So you and your family. Right? How much you're going to give away, and then how much you're going to, I'm going to say, donate. So use at home could be use fresh or store, right? Give away, let them decide what they're going to do with it. And then donate is, it is what it is.
Well, I think it's a hard measure because you don't know what each plant's going to produce. So you kind of take it, I think people should take it one step at a time. But the one thing to think about too is, and we'll just stick with tomatoes right now because it's pretty easy.
Sure.
You're going to get tomatoes, and this may be your first year or your 15th year gardening. Doesn't matter. Well, it does kind of matter because if it's your first year, you really don't know how many you're going to get. And you probably, there's a chance that you might not be doing something correctly, so you might not get as much. But prepare yourself ahead of time and start looking at recipes. Start finding stuff. You know what I mean? And when I say finding stuff, I don't mean like add a tomato. I mean add tomatoes as the star of the dish. That's a really good way to use up a lot of it, I think. You know what I mean? Do you agree?
I do agree, yes.
Okay. I was making sure.
Yeah, just disconnecting something here, It's all good. I was trying to click on the hang up button with you, but I couldn't get to it. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're going to hang up on me? That's awesome. That's a good way to start the podcast. Everybody hold on tight. This is going to be a good show.
But no, you're right. You're on the right track. And so we'll stick with tomatoes, but I think that you have to scan your garden knowing what you're growing now.
For sure.
And you're thinking about all of those things. It doesn't even matter that you don't know exactly when they're going to come in, right? You know, like, are they going to come in at the same time to make this dish? If you're kind of stockpiling recipes, right? Once that tomato starts to ripen, if you have other things that are ripe, great. You should have a dish in mind already. If you don't, go with a dish that only had tomatoes in it. So I think one of the biggest things that I've learned when it comes to how to use the harvest is not saving. Meaning, like, I'm not, sorry, trying to get a call to go to voicemail here, but people are insisting on talking.
Hit the FU button.
Yeah, I know, right? How about do not disturb? So, look, I don't want to change that. So, anywho, I think that one of the biggest issues I've had has been, I'm waiting on something else to come, so I'm going to not use these 6 tomatoes. And the reality is that by the time that something else is, ready to get harvested, those tomatoes may be overripe. You'd be surprised how, I think generally things that I get from my garden keep longer than something that I would get from the store.
Yes.
Just my general experience. But I think the idea is use it. If you don't get a chance, let's say I have a tomato and bean and pepper recipe. I don't know what it is, but let's pretend that that's the recipe I'm going for. My tomatoes, a handful of them are ripe. And, my peppers, got a couple of peppers that are ripe, but my beans haven't come in yet, right? So I can decide to try to wait and potentially have to pivot because those beans may or may not come in when I want them to, or I can use it right then and there. I'm going to vote for using it then and there. So come up with a alternative recipe. I think unless you plan on storing them, which is a whole different part of the conversation, use it while you have it because it's also going to encourage that plant to continue to produce. So let's not do the wait and see method when it comes to our harvest.
Well, hold on.
Where I'm going.
Don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere, Batman.
So that's a really good point, though, because, and if you don't know, now you know, the more you harvest, the more you get. Mm-hmm. So let's say you just have this bang up harvest on your eggplants. And you're just getting eggplants. You're just pulling them off. Yeah, I got eggplants, eggplant. I got eggplant parmesan. I got eggplant this, that, ratatouille, and da-da-da-da. You can leave your eggplants on there and slow down the growth of them. So you don't get as many as well. So you can do that. That is a possibility. Yeah. But once you do that, it's kind of hard to get the plant producing more again. Yeah. So, there are different ways to do stuff like that. So... just be aware of that. But that's a good point that you make because, especially with like beans and peas and I'm drawing my really just about anything. I think everything. The more you harvest, the more you get, and because that plant is designed to reproduce, and that's how it's reproducing because it's creating seed.
It's a whisper to the plant. You're sending a signal to say, continue to reproduce, continue with this part of your job, this part of your life. Let me ask you, what do you think about taking tomatoes, and again, sticking with tomatoes for a sec, off of the plant before they're ripe to ripen later, to ripen on your counter or on your windowsill?
I don't do that. I just eat fried green tomatoes. So but I don't have a problem with that. First of all, I don't really care what you do in your garden, but, if it's like hardcore green, I don't think that I think it's like a crapshoot. You know what I mean? You could, or you couldn't, but if it's starting to turn, like it's been yellow for a while, then, like my first tomatoes, once they start to turn yellow, a lot of times I'll go ahead and clip those because it's doing two things. One is telling the plant to produce more. 2, it's giving it more energy to produce. And 3, I can already start and enjoy my harvest because I know that I'm going to eat them in this certain way. So I have no problem with it, but you just have to be careful about it. Yeah,
and I think 4, you're going to get to that veggie before some other pest or critter or animal gets to it as well.
Oh, not my garden. I don't have problems with that.
Oh, well, I mean, la-di-da.
La-di-da. Somebody's special.
No, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a method, to kind of use your harvest. But I do think that it kind of, for me, helps combat the I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's great disappointment when you're watching a fruit, or a veggie, and then you come back days or a week later or something, and something else has gotten to it, So I'm like, it's kind of like my vacation time, use it or lose it,
Yeah.
So for me, and tomatoes as an example, I have historically waited until they're ripe and ripe on the vine, because my tomatoes are always coming so late in the season, where I want to get all of the red and ripe tomatoes I can. So everyone, like every third person that I offer things to from the garden, asks about green tomatoes. And I'm like, I can't afford to give you my green tomatoes. I need to let them ripen, like green tomatoes for me are secondary. But now with 88 tomato plants, I think I'll be able to spare a few.
Why are they secondary?
Because I enjoy ripe tomatoes more than I do like fried green tomatoes. I enjoy fried green tomatoes, but... So
take one and enjoy it.
No one ever wants one green tomato when someone's asking for something from your garden.
If you give them one green tomato, that's what they get.
Okay, I guess that's the way.
And let's take it down another notch, because this is something a lot of gardeners don't think about, especially when it comes to this. When's the last time you went into a grocery store and bought a green tomato for fried green tomatoes?
I've never.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's a freaking delicacy because people can't get it. So if they're like, do you have a green tomato? Be like, yeah, I got one. Throw them a green tomato. They'll be like, hell yeah. I'm fixing to go home and eat that. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, I mean, it's something as basic as that, though. That's what's amazing about it. I mean, how basic is that? It's a green tomato. You don't think twice about it, but it's a damn delicacy.
Yeah, it's a good point. It kind of ties back to, we were talking about this in a recent episode about a garden. For me, gives me an opportunity to also grow things that I wouldn't normally buy in the grocery store, right? Things that I may enjoy, but never really stop and say, oh, I thought you guys had some unripe tomatoes over here for an astronomical price. What happened to those? Like, that never happens, right?
Yeah.
And I think to that point, in using, again, tomatoes, people recognize that. They're like, anyone knows anything about gardening, they know a tomato starts off green, and so they're asking about it, right?
Well, and let me say this about my tomato plants, and I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but this is truly how I think. Don't you do that. My tomato season, I run it like a movie. I start with a fried green tomato, and then at the end of the season, which is the end of the movie, I finish with a fried green tomato. And it is a complete story of my tomato plants for the year. How ridiculous is that?
I don't think I've ever done that. I've never done that.
You're missing out on life.
Clearly.
You're missing out. Yeah.
Are you going to take my garden badge, one of the garden badges I earned from 2 episodes ago?
I think I might have to.
So my very first, normally you'll get cherry tomatoes first, right? But for a whole tomato, my very first is a tomato sandwich. A tomato sandwich. Yeah,
Yuck.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. I probably have a half a dozen pictures on my phone of each year that I've had my tomato sandwich for the first time.
I tried it every year. I try it and I can't do it.
Yeah, it's I live for it. So I think one of the things that we don't often do, I won't say we, I've not often done this, but I am committed to it, especially with growing so many different things now, is eating in the garden. So how to use your harvest. We buy groceries. Even if we go to the farmer's market, we buy groceries, we, pick up things, we bring them home. We may start cooking a dish immediately. We most times will put it in the cabinet, put it in the refrigerator, put it in the freezer. We're not kind of in the grocery store eating a peach, right? We're not in the grocery store. Stop it. You're not eating a banana in the grocery store, right? But if you do, you're done? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I do that.
Yeah, okay. So I don't. And I imagine some of the folks listening don't.
You don't walk around and eat a grape? You don't eat a grape when you're shopping?
I was hoping we would move on before we got to the grapes as an example.
No,
absolutely.
We're going to
absolutely.
And
even an
kids,
apricot every now and again. But my point is,
okay.
Yeah, my point is, don't be so caught up with getting your harvest and taking it inside to do a thing with it, right? It's just fine to be in your garden, run the hose on a tomato or cucumber and eat it then. So these are obviously kind of casual ways to enjoy your harvest, but absolutely do that.
So wait, you wash off if you were going to go outside and eat a tomato out of your garden right there, would you wash it off first?
I would.
Why?
Because it makes me feel better.
Okay.
I don't spray anything on my garden, you know that, but
yeah, I know that. That's why I
just
asked.
Rinsing off the last bug that was laying on it.
Oh no, you know why? You know I eat the bugs, so they know who's boss. Because when I pick up that vegetable, and all those little bugs are looking at me with Johnny on there, and I bite them, they're like, "Oh shit, he's the man."
Nonsense. As they're like saying their last words, they're yelling, "He's the man, stay away," to their bug friends.
Yeah.
No, that's not how life
4
works.
billion times bigger than them. They need to know who's in charge here.
I guess. I wish I could use that attitude towards all the things I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
But we move on.
I don't know. I wanted to camp there for a minute, but we can move on.
About bugs being afraid of you? I mean, if that makes you feel like a manly man, Ben.
No, it makes me feel like I'm in charge of my garden, not a manly man.
Okay, all right.
Because it's an uphill battle. But eating raw out of your garden, of course. Mm-hmm. Of course. Like the first watermelon I get every year, I don't even cut it off the vine. I just slice a piece right off of it on the vine, and then I cut it off the vine.
Interesting. I've never grown watermelons, but the plants are taking off. So
yeah,
I'm really trying to contain myself. I don't know if I'm more excited about the melons or the potatoes, but to be determined.
TBD.
Uh-huh. So I asked about tomatoes in part because I wanted to kind of transition to what do they call it in the garden world? Harvesting something when it's young versus when it's fully mature. So,
I don't think they call it that.
What do they call it?
Nothing. I don't want to say it because I don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah. All right.
It's not mean it is mean. It's not like offensive, but it's just I'm going to say it. It's just hoodoo for like trying to price up something like microgreens. That's just seedlings. Okay. I said it. It's just seedlings. Right.
So 2 things. Right? One, I've bought microgreen packages of seeds for microgreens.
So you brought lettuce seeds?
Yeah. 2, baby anything is a crock. I buy baby spinach from the grocery store. It's a crock. Put on our hats, right?
Yeah. No, I don't even need a hat. I don't even need my tinfoil hat. I'm good on this one. I own this situation.
So with that said, though, that's another way. Well, there's the second part of that before you took us all the way over there, through there in the valleys. There is harvesting something when it's young. And there's also kind of harvesting a thing just generally earlier for the purpose of what you're describing. Like it's air quote marketed as baby lettuce or baby carrots or whatever have you. I was actually thinking more like, a piece of okra that's this big versus that big. Do you wait for everything to get full size, I guess, Do
I? No. Yeah. Well, first of all, I think as a gardener, so this is another reason why I love gardening so much, because you can develop your tastes to your vegetables that you grow. Mm-hmm. So you'll go out there and you'll say, I want this tomato now. I want it when it's fully red, fully ripe. But then you might go out there and say, well, you know what? I'm going to get this one a little early because I need it. And it might not be totally right, but notice that the taste is different. Same with baby spinach. You harvest it, or like you don't have to wait until it's like fully harvested. Yeah. And like case an example would be like squash blossoms. People eat squash blossoms, garlic scapes. All those things are not like I personally had never heard of anybody eating a garlic scape, or a squash blossom until I went to a farm to go get vegetables one time. They're like, "Would you like to try our garlic scapes today?" And I was like,
bonjour.
Yeah.
Where you at?
And I was like, the way she said it, I was like, okay, this is going to be really expensive. And she was like, I was like, how much is it? And she was like, it's 50 cents for a pound. And I was like, oh, okay, because you made it sound like it was different. She's like, oh, yeah, I was just joking with you because you go to just anywhere else and you buy it for astronomical price. She's like, here, you can just have them. And I was like, oh, I got you.
Yeah.
But I got them and they were delicious. But you just develop that taste.
I love that. Love it. And I think that's where I was headed, but maybe not. We're going to settle on. Thanks for bringing us here, Ben.
Okay.
So it is the way a vegetable, the taste of a vegetable changes as it goes through various stages of maturity, right? So for years, I was so used to basically harvesting a thing closer to the end of the season, like trying to get it to be the most mature, or harvesting a thing once it looked more like what I'm used to seeing in the stores, right? So the 10-inch cucumber or whatever have you. And the reality is most everything tastes different at various stages, and you don't know what you really enjoy until you get there, right? So you may really enjoy that not so quite ripe tomato. Maybe you don't like super sweet tomatoes, right? I don't know who you are if you do, but if you have a garden, there is a part of play when it comes to that, meaning like as long as you're consuming it, it's a part of your food, right? Your food intake. Go ahead and take a couple of arugula leaves when they're super small compared to when they get to whatever the mature size is. You're definitely going to...
I like them immature.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have a different taste.
Yeah. And
then you can decide as you go forward in your future gardens, maybe you want like completely immature arugula. Maybe that's the way you really, really prefer it. And you won't know until you try it, right?
Yeah.
So
that's how I am. I'm not lying. I'm serious. Well, and it's like, take like jalapenos and hot peppers and stuff. Like the older they get, the hotter they get. So you might really like the flavor of the pepper itself with a little bit of heat. So you would pull it off earlier. But if you go to the grocery store, they're all immature. All of them are immature. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, I'm growing chipotle peppers this year, and I have a ritual. Every year I pick my first pepper and I eat it in the garden straight up.
Oh, man.
I don't even think twice. I take a big bite because for one of two reasons. I want to know how hot it is before I try and feed it to my family. And it's because I've been doing that is now just like a habit. And I had never grown chipotle peppers before. And I bit into it, and that son of a bitch was like napalm in my mouth. It was so effing hot. I couldn't stand it. And I was like, okay, so now I know that they need to be picked younger though. I mean, it was so hot. It was unbelievable. So, yeah. And I grew habaneros one year and same thing.
It may have been last year, I think because last year was going to be my big jalapeno year, but I realized that I accidentally bought like, if I had a dozen plants or something, 6 or 7 of them were garden salsa plants. I don't know how in the world I did that. These weren't seeds. I bought transplants and somehow put the wrong peppers in my little cart at the nursery. And so similar thing. It wasn't by plan. I just said, I wonder what this tastes like. And so I, in the garden, took a bite out of it. I said, oh no, I don't want He's like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I was literally digging it. I texted one of my good girlfriends like, hey, how do you feel about, and she's like, oh, my husband loves them. I was digging plants up, and putting them in a container to bring them over there because they were and this was like before it was even fully ripe. So I gave them a few of those plants because I was just like, no, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, a buddy of mine did that to me once. He was growing Hungarian wax peppers, and he gave me some one time. I was like, are they hot? And he's like, nah, man, I've been eating them. He ate one. I was like, okay. So I made a sandwich and I cut them. Like I thought they were like sweet peppers.
Yeah.
And the Hungarian peppers are like that big, they're like 6 inches. So I just sliced them down the middle and put them on a sandwich. I hiked to the top of a 4,500 foot mountain that day. sat on the peak of the mountain and said, it's time for lunch, and bit into it. And my mouth was literally on fire. And the only water I had to conserve because I didn't know the next time I would come past a stream to get more water. And it was pure hell. And I sat there and I said, when I see that son of a bitch again, I'm going to kick him in his mouth. And I asked him, though, I said, I was like, what the hell, man? You gave me this pepper and you told me it wasn't. He's like, they're not hot. And he was like, oh, the one I picked was younger than that one. That one had been on the plant longer. Case in point.
Yeah, there you have it.
And so I learned two things that day. I'll never take another pepper from a person again. Never.
Yeah. Well, I really want to be able to consume hot things. But I just, obviously you can get through anything. We used to watch Fear Factor. You know that you can do anything. Tarantulas, you can eat them. But it's just, it's a disservice to my body.
Yeah, well, you got to take it in baby steps, and I do the same thing. I eat hot food all the time. I love jalapenos. But I grew habaneros one year, and they're a totally different level.
Yeah.
And you get like 10 times as much off of them. It's ridiculous. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this liquid fire?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do with it, Yeah. So, but anyway.
But just a quick note for that when it comes to those, isn't it true that you won't gain as much heat if you can avoid the seeds?
Man, kind of, but that's just... I've pulled seeds out and still been burnt. So, I mean, you can try it, but just don't touch your eyes when you do it because it's a miserable experience. But I think that's part of the fun of it, though, for me. Like, I love growing hot peppers because it's like, how the hell did I put something in my garden and it's literally making me cry because it's so hot? Like, how is this possible? I don't understand. You know what I mean?
Girlfriends, it's like, I don't understand why people want to eat things that cause them pain. Like, I'm like, I don't understand it either, but do you want some or not?
I love it. It's fun. And I mean, even though that pepper I ate the other day was just terrible, it was fun. I love it.
All right. So tell me, what do you think, kind of random, if you had to give a percentage to the amount of your harvest that you eat, you and your family eat, kind of fresh versus what you preserve? 3, 2, 1.
Based on what we grow, I would say we probably eat about 25% of what we grow fresh, roughly.
Interesting. Yeah.
Depending on what you were growing that year, though. So crops are different. But
But I'm only asking about your garden and what you all grow. So
so like this year, but like if we eat it in winter squash, like we harvest our winter squash, but we don't eat it for 4 months. Is that considered fresh?
It's a good question.
Because it's storage fine.
You've stored it, yeah.
Yeah, then probably about 15%. Yeah, well, I don't know, man. That's a hard one because then I think about all my like spring vegetables and fall and stuff like that. Yeah. So it may be a little different. Yeah. I can't answer that question honestly. I might have to go with.
No, we already have it recorded. You answered, 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, that was
already
crap.
Been filed. It's already been filed.
Yeah, so, I don't know. How about you?
Historically, like 95%. Fresh.
Really?
Yeah, I just got into storing food. Well, again, just also remember the amount of food I've grown previously and the types of food that I've grown previously lend itself well to fresh. But there's not a whole lot that I'm gaining that says you actually need to go through the efforts of storing it. That's changed in the last couple of years. So the last couple of years, I started to get into preserving food more. This year, I can't even imagine, like, I won't even pretend to guess, but it's going to be a lot of preserving. I have so many ideas around it, but.
Well, you have to remember, I started a garden to preserve. That was my end goal, was to preserve food to eat throughout the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I throw that number out there, but like when we're growing lettuce, we're eating it every day. When we're growing tomatoes, my wife eats the tomatoes every day, or I'll cook with them, or, stuff like that. So when the cucumbers are coming in, we eat them every day. But now when I go out and pick 5 pounds of green beans, 4.8 pounds are going into the canner. You know what I mean? Because we prefer the taste of canned green beans
versus frozen.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like when okra comes in, if you can eat all the okra you pick in one day, you the man. Or wool man, whatever.
Look, one morning and one evening, right? Two different times you're picking it. Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And you didn't even ask me how much of it we give away.
Yeah, it's actually, good point.
And that's another thing.
That's a different question though, because we talked about, I opened with how much you consume, either way, fresh or preserved, how much you give away. And I'm separating giveaway from donating.
Why? The same thing.
Oh, no, I think, I look at giveaway to family and friends is what giveaway is versus donating. And it's, for me, different. And I'd like you to answer it based on it being different.
Well, no. I want to know why it's different. We got a couple minutes now. I want to know the difference.
Well, I think that while it's all done with love, I think I don't know. I don't know why it's different.
No,
I just process it differently. I just process it differently.
Because if you let me take a wild guess. Do you think that it's different because you are donating to somebody who possibly can't afford to get their food or something like that?
No.
Okay.
No, I think you're very intentional about like what you're giving to family and friends is more personalized. Like, oh, I know that this neighbor here doesn't like okra, so I would never package that up in a bag for them, or a box for them. Versus if I'm donating something, I may say, okay, I have excess of this, so I'm going to donate all of these things, right? Yeah. I don't know.
Man, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't have to. It's garden magic.
It obviously is. Batavia's garden magic. It's their own personal magic.
Absolutely.
But no, because the reason why I asked about like people affording it is like if I give some of my harvest to somebody who generally does not have a garden, I feel like I'm donating that to them because they cannot enjoy fresh vegetables and fruits from a garden. So therefore I am donating to them. That's how I look at it. But
okay, that's fine.
Either way, it's a very small thing in the world. But so we give away a lot or donate however you want to do it. But we probably, if you want to split it up like you do, we donate a lot more than we give away. So, my neighbor across the street's always asking me for jalapenos. So I bring him hot peppers. And then there's on my street, there's 3 people that I know of that actually have a decent garden, and we'll kind of trade different things that, if they're growing something I don't grow, we'll trade for something, barter or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, we donate to our food kitchen down the street. So, we give them a lot of eggplants and a lot of okra. And the lady, I asked her, I was like, so do people like she's like, well, the people come in and beg for the okra. And I said, well, what about the eggplant? She's like, they didn't like it at first, but then they started asking for the eggplants. And I was like, see cool. There? That's how it goes.
I think this is, and maybe I separate it because I've had enough in my garden to give over the years, but I've not really had enough to donate. And maybe that's the reason why I separated in my mind. And a part of my design for this year's garden is with both of those things in mind. So, if I'm really, if I'm a realistic person, if it's not within your home, you're giving it away. If it's not within your home, you're donating. It's really the same thing. But I think for me, the way I approach it when it comes to, I'm at a different level now with my gardening because I think I'm growing enough food this year around to be able to say, I can, give you with the love of my garden heart to my friends and family. And then I can also give with that same garden heart, to a food kitchen, so
do you want to know about that. Do you want to know something I've been toying with?
What's that?
So I've been looking for property. I want to get about 1/8 of an acre and I want to plant a garden, but I want to tend the garden and I want to open it up for people to come tend it, but I want to give everything that I grow away. Donate every single thing. and that piece of property to it. The only problem is property is pretty expensive, so we're going to work on that. But that's what I would like to do, because a lot of these people, like I go to the food kitchens and not food kitchens. I don't know what it's called. I don't want to say their name because they're kind of picky. But when you go in there, it's like all bread, all cereal. You know, they get fresh fruits, but it's just like not good food. And I'm like, just because they can't afford to eat better food, I want to be able to provide them food. And not only that, but teach them how to grow the damn food. Free. No community garden. I'll take care of the damn thing. The whole thing. I'll grow it all. And I'll just pick it all and give it to you. Y'all can help me. But I don't want anybody else to do it. But it's not as easy as one would think to do that. So
yeah,
I didn't mean to do that to you either. I didn't think it would.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
For those that are listening, I'm doing that classic, like trying to bat away tears.
You are batting away hard.
So it's for two reasons. One, because I can't even tell you how it really warms my heart. And two, I have a very similar, and it's crazy. It's so great we don't talk about these things. I have a very similar idea in mind.
Do you need to take a minute, Batavia?
I'm okay. I'll fight my way through it. Yeah,
we can
I'm
take
okay.
a minute if you need to.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. It's there's a property that is directly behind my house, and I've been poking around. And while there are a couple of spaces where there are trees, that it's just like right on the corners of the property. So this is a full city lot in Chicago that isn't like huge. It's still like a 100 by 25 foot lot, but it's completely open. And so it's been open for a couple of years, and I've been doing a little bit of research on it. It's not a city property completely yet. But I've had that same thought, and I've been trying to figure out, like, obviously you can go renegade and start a thing on a property and just wait to see what happens, You
can, but that's not the right way to do it, man, because then they'll come take it from you.
Yeah, then if you go the proper way, that it's going to be a red tape, right? So I've been thinking about it, and it's actually a project that I have in mind. Well, there are plenty of lots in the city. There's it's something I plan on looking into a little bit more this winter. And it may not even be for a 2021 garden, but it's yeah. It's
I know what you're saying. It's
our garden hearts don't connect in this way often, but here they are. Yeah.
They connect in more ways than you think.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just so important, because you can do community gardens, but when you're really trying to target is the bad word, but the people who really need the food, it's a lot of times it's hard to get them involved. And that's just studies show that. It's just science, it's demographics, whatever, statistics. And so that being said, and it's like, I'm cool. Like, if you don't want to grow your own food, like, I'm cool. I get it. It's not for everybody, but you still need to be able to eat good food, and it's like, hey, just come help out.
Yeah.
One day a month, or don't just send the kids up to help.
Yeah.
That's what I would rather send the kids up to help. And let me tell you, I got a son. It's not the easiest thing in the world for me. And other people's kids are not any easier. Yeah. But I think it's still worth it, because especially if they go on their own accord, they're going to be more into it. And we have totally gotten off track on the garden harvest. What to do with your harvest?
We totally did, but yeah, you're gonna have to pull me back around. You're like
okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll do another episode about that one day. Maybe when one of us pulls the trigger on something, or you never know. Maybe we'll both pull the trigger on the same thing. Right? It's when you do your garden, when you get a big harvest from your garden. We've gone over eating it fresh. We've gone over kind of. Really something I think is more advanced is changing your taste profile by trying younger, older, and ripe vegetables. And then the next thing I would think is preserving it. And we've done before Batavia answered our casting call and won the golden prize of being on the show. I did a whole series on that, and you guys can check it out. And we'll probably revisit it eventually. But just knowing with the intention of planting what you're going to preserve, I think is very important too.
Yeah.
So case in point, as I have 8 tomato plants. Okay. When everybody's like, that's not much. 8 tomato plants is a lot of tomatoes. It's going to give you a lot of tomatoes. Like and that's what I said, like Batavia, how many you have? Like 20, 21?
No, I ended up only planting like 15 or 16.
Okay. So you have
Not
double
20,
the amount I do.
Yeah.
So that's insane amount of tomatoes. But we did that with the intention of preserving it. So that's what a lot of that portion of our garden goes to is for that. So that's something too. The benefit of that though is I can eat fresh tomatoes and I can preserve tomatoes. That's the benefit. So
yeah. And I think that like I would prefer to eat fresh like all of the time, but that's just not the way. Everything that I would want to eat fresh, obviously I can't grow all year long. And interestingly enough, there are meals that I really enjoy with canned food, right? Not so much frozen, but with canned food. I was trying to think of someone I was talking to, and they were asking about canning, like something like, how does it not go bad? And it's so interesting the way that we're disconnected from it. And I'm like, well, just like you have a bottle of sauce, tomato sauce from the store, like that's what I'll be doing,
right.
And I didn't bother diving into like why that didn't connect for that person. But I find it interesting. And that's another reason why I enjoy gardening, because it sounds corny, and it is, but it's really getting back to the basics, So you're not doing anything you're not taking any steps for your home preservation that any big, manufacturers aren't. So you're doing the same things. You may be making different dishes, but it's the same steps, just on a smaller scale, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, you're either freezing something, you're drying something, or you're canning something. Like, these are all of the things. It's not some new technique you're creating,
Oh, you must not know what I've been doing. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, you're right. But the thing is if I walked up to somebody and said, "Hey, I canned these green beans. Do you want the can? Do you want this can of green beans?" And they would love, and let's say this person loved them more than anything, they're liable to tell you no because they don't trust your canning. Yeah. Now, there's 2 things about that. One, that person is kind of correct, because there's a safety
issue. Yeah.
There is a safety issue. But 2 is if they know you, like if, if you came up to me, well, you're just now getting into canning, so I might have to turn you down.
Make it the reverse.
So if I came up to you and I said, Batavia, do you want these green beans? Like, if you knew me and knew that I had been doing it for a while, then you should be like, yeah, sure, no problem. But still, those people might not, because it didn't come from a store. Yeah.
So last year, last year was the first year I canned. I did simply refrigerator pickles because I was still nervous, right? And we still have to get back to your pickle recipe. And then I did, with water bath canning, candied jalapeno peppers. And so it was the same thing. Like, everything worked out well. The jars sealed. And I took them to Thanksgiving, and I was kind of like standing watch as they opened. And we were trying them, I'm just like, all right, advisory alert, they were fine. But yeah, it's definitely that. And I actually have some gift ideas when it comes to that too. But there definitely is the caution, making sure I'm giving something to someone that, isn't spoiled or that's been sealed properly and all of that good stuff.
Well, you just make sure that you've done all the steps proper and all that. And so like yesterday, was it yesterday? We'll go with yesterday or the day before, whatever. I pulled a can of my green beans out of my cupboard from last year. And when I popped the top off, I couldn't remember if it was like went or if, or what happened. And I was like, nah, I just threw it away, got another one out, popped right off. And those are the things, like you you know when it's been sealed, but if you don't know or there's like any doubt, just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Yeah. What are you wasting? Yeah. Literally the only thing you're wasting other than the food is the little lid for the thing. That's
that you
it.
don't reuse. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't reuse that part. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's also I don't know that I'm giving away enough. I'll be giving away enough to actually let other people can. But to your point of, I have one of my girlfriends, her mom, like she cans all the time. I've gotten between last year and this year 3 jars of jelly and jam from her, and I'm blaming the way I'm bumping into her. I'm blaming her for it because I have to eat more bread now, more crackers. Like, it's important for me to consume this jelly.
Do you eat oatmeal?
I haven't had oatmeal in the longest time.
Do you eat cereal?
I used to eat it often. Yeah, but cold cereal, not hot cereal.
Yeah, I always put jelly in my cereal.
Your cold cereal?
Always. Why not? I want strawberry flavored cereal. I don't have any fresh strawberries.
Never heard of this.
Of course you haven't, but now you have. And every day.
I could walk away. I can't believe this. I had lunch before we started. Otherwise.
Do you want me to take my mic off the stand and drop it?
Well, no, let's wait until I have breakfast for dinner and I try it this evening.
It's different, but it's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, you put it in, you mix it up, boom.
Yeah,
put it in your yogurt if you eat yogurt. And that's the whole thing about gardening too, is when you start doing that stuff, you start getting creative.
Yeah.
And you start figuring out, how can I eat this tomato? What can I do different today?
Because or even dishes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, you were saying something about jelly. Oh, so that lady is a perfect candidate for you to give your seconds tomatoes. Mm-hmm, do you know what seconds are?
No, I thought you meant like the second, like the bumper crop of tomatoes.
Do you know what seconds are? No. Seconds are the tomatoes that are bruised or not as pretty.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what you use for canning. Mm-hmm, so if you ever go and you're like, you want a can, go to a farmer's market and go up to the person and say, hey, do you have any seconds? Like seconds tomatoes? And they'll say, yeah, I got you. I got a whole they'll give you a box for like $3 just full of them. And they're really only good for canning.
Yeah.
And that's who you would give that to. But I don't think you should be giving enough produce to people to can with unless you know they can.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to be happy to eat it, fresh. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for her in particular, though, she doesn't know it yet. I don't know if she or her daughter listens, but I have some special plans. She's a wonderful woman. She enjoys doing all things that are baking and canning, and she's really good at it.
Is she old?
She's older. She's wiser. She's a friend of mine's mother, so she's older than I am.
So she's probably like 60-ish, something like that. Yeah. So that's that's exactly right, because the older generations are more like that. And now I'm becoming the older generation.
Everything that's old becomes new. So I think the idea of canning clearly is a thing. We know it, right? We live it. You're doing it. What are your other thoughts? Because what I wanted to say was some of the ways that you eat a dish, you can actually revamp. One of my favorites, and I did this on a recent episode, was the recipe of the day. It was kind of this char-baked, dish that you could decide how you want to eat it. But one day I kind of looked around and said, I'm going to top my eggs with this. I've had okra with eggs in the morning, like
wait,
fried okra or baked okra.
No, you got to stop.
Yeah.
No, there's something that the people need to know about you right now.
Oh,
I called Batavia the other day. It was probably 8:00. I said, what are you doing? She's like, I'm about to eat a bean burrito. I said, what you mean a bean burrito? You got some eggs in or something? She's like, no, I don't give a shit about breakfast food. I just eat what I want. So that whole thing you just said, it don't count. It don't count. Don't listen to this woman.
Yeah, it did kind of sound like that's probably a quote. Yeah, so for the record, I don't have any kind of barriers whatever. If I have leftovers from the night before, I don't risk waiting until the next evening to eat them. No, I'm going to eat them for breakfast, know, so I have no limitations there. I eat non-traditional food for breakfast more often than people eat, breakfast for dinner. But I said that to say when I made the dish, I didn't make it with a thought of it was going to go with eggs, but I said, once you had the flavors in mind, I was like, I wonder, right? And it was also with the idea of trying to consume what I've made, right, to get to the next dish. So yeah, I mean, I think that you're not, in most cases, if you're listening, you're probably not preparing things gourmet chef-like for your restaurant, which means you can break all of the rules, right, when it comes to what you prepare for your home and how you prepare it. I'm not trying to, imply that, go ahead and if a dish doesn't work out, toss it out. But I mean, you have a little bit more liberty when it comes to getting food from your garden. So you try something, I'm notorious for cooking from the living room. So I've burnt more than one pan of okra in particular, or zucchini fries or something, and so it's not that big of a deal when you have a whole stack in your front yard garden.
No, it's not. And don't ever use that term again. It's disgusting on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
That's the only place I'm growing. That's the only place I'm growing zucchini this year, man.
Really?
There's no place in my backyard. Yeah.
It's eating it, and I think so. For the record, I think the way that you do it, you don't care, you eat. I think it's great, and I do about the same thing because generally I skip breakfast, but then I'll have breakfast for dinner. So, when I grew up, if I had pizza the night before, you damn right I was having it for breakfast. There was no doubt I wasn't having pizza for breakfast. But, it's true though. You can play around with your food a little bit and, you can learn, and you do have that, because if you grow a seed, you get a pack of seeds and it's $2 for a pack of 50 seeds, and you grow a zucchini plant. A plant costs you $2, and then you get 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 zucchinis off of it. Who gives a shit if you mess up one? You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you were trying. You didn't just let it rot. So the real question is how much food that you grow do you have to throw out because you didn't eat it in time?
I'd say, I don't know, maybe probably less than 5%. I think and it's not, I didn't eat it in time. It's I didn't pick it or harvest it in time, which is the same. I still didn't get a chance to eat it. It's I left it on the vine too long, But if I take it off of the vine and it's still, okay to eat, I mean, I'm trying to, there may be a dish where there's leftovers, there's a serving left where I'm just like, I just can't do it anymore, and that ends up getting thrown out. Yeah. But I'd really, because I'm really, really conscious of it, when you kind of go back to, this whole pandemic earlier in the year, there were some conversations regarding food insecurities that people have gone through in their lifetime. Obviously, it's not everyone's story. And while it wasn't necessarily my story growing up, I definitely have a situation where I'm always trying to make sure I have enough, and that turns into more than I need. Hence the 15,
clearly,
which was originally 72 tomato plants. Like, real quick story. We had some type of event for work, and our admin was going to be out for the week, and my boss asked me to organize the lunch or the dinner. It was the dinner, and we pre-ordered. So this is Chicago and Chicago style pizza, and I'm not even going to entertain all of that New York talk, and we're not going to go there here. So Chicago style pizza, which is traditionally deep dish pizza. So I think it was Geno's East maybe is where we went. I can't remember for sure, but I knew the number of people. I knew who was attending. If every person didn't walk away with a box of pizza, like I tried to guesstimate how much I thought we needed. And my boss said, clearly you can't do this for us anymore. I'm like, listen, because my concern of not having enough was so strong that I completely said, all right, 2 of this, 2 of that, 2 of this, 2 of that. So I said all of that to say, there's that insecurity around food that kind of comes in, and it's my goal to make sure that I always have more than enough, right? And so then that's why I have 4 plants one year, 12 plants another year, 22 plants another year, you know. So anyway,
you'll this is going to be a good year for you. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot. And I mean, it's because of seed starting.
For sure.
You would not have gone to a store and bought 16 tomato plants to put in your yard. I guarantee you wouldn't have.
Did I tell you that I was talking to, I have to give her a call. I was talking to one of my great aunts, and we were just chatting away. And so she's been following. She said, I'm just calling to check in on Farmer Brown, you know, and she's talking about me. And so I was telling her, you know, I finally got all my tomato plants planted. And I told her the whole story about how many tomato starts that I had. I think the number was, I started with 72. I hardened off 60 or something. And so by the time I got down to how many I planted, I said something like, you know, next year I won't start so many from seed. She's like, wait, you started them from seed? And I said, yeah. She's like, I thought you bought those. And I'm like, and she was so sweet. But that's crazy talk. Like, you know, like all of this time she's, you know, just going along with me thinking that I paid, you know, what's that, $2 or $3 a piece? Hell no. Like that's the reason why I was so cavalier. Like it's 60, you know, but it is what it is. I mean, there was a little bit more seed start used, a little bit more water, but not nearly the expense.
Next year it'll be different for you though. You know,
I don't know if that thing we're working on works out. You never know. But yeah.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, that's different. But for your own personal garden, that would, you know, you won't do that
next
again.
year, I won't. I actually have some thoughts that we'll talk about at some future episode. But this year really is a startup year, if you will, because it's going to help me gauge how much of things I want to grow. Not, you know, like just put it in the ground and see what happens. You know, I'll have a real good idea of, for the purposes of those two things, my own consumption and preserving, because we're going all in with preserving. And then for the giving away, in both of the versions of giving away for me, I'll have an idea of how much these plants are producing on a good year, hopefully. And then I can basically scale up or scale down, you know. Right. So that's also a part of this year, right? You know, having the space and knowing, all right, I want to use it. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting space either, you know, so.
Well, think about it this way. And all I want to say about it is when you grow these things from seed, it's hard to get rid of them. But next year, it's simple. You'll just start less. You know what I mean? And you'll figure it out. And I guarantee you're going to be swimming in tomatoes this year. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So,
I'm already lining people up, like committed people to come. That's one thing. In some instances, you can get rid of a lot of things, but in other instances, you can't.
So I'm going to go ahead and say it now. If you go out and buy another jar of tomato sauce before next spring, I will personally fly up there and slap you. I won't even say hi. I won't even do anything. I'll just go to your house because I know where you are. You'll open the door and I'm going to slap you in the face and then I'm going to drive off. And it'll be a totally wasted trip. So you better start canning your tomatoes and stop jacking around because you literally have no excuse unless you have total crop failure.
I do have a few store-bought cans of tomatoes, but I'm going to be at the point because I'm getting close to the point of I stopped buying certain store-bought things as the garden starts to produce that. And I've done that for years, right? You know, so I think I'm on, like, I'm going to eat my last store-bought cucumber. I think I'm on that now. And there's going to be a gap in between, and that is what it is. You know, I love the texture of tomatoes. The flavor clearly isn't the same from what I buy compared to what I grow, but I'll buy tomatoes like right up into the point where I realize, okay, because there are not a lot of things that you can sub in for tomatoes, you know, but like cucumbers and things like that, peppers, like I won't buy those, you know.
Well, that's why we grow cherry tomatoes. So because you can sub those in.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still a tomato though. Yeah,
it's still a tomato, but you get them a lot earlier.
Yeah,
was the moral of the story.
Absolutely.
So this is what I can, because I know you just kind of got into canning. So for me, I've been canning a while. This is kind of what we expect to get canning wise every year. Not how much, but just what. And then if anything else arises, like we can adjust. But we do canned green beans. We do like spaghetti sauce, pizza sauce, stewed tomatoes, crushed tomato or chopped tomatoes, pickles, and pickled okra, and roasted peppers. We usually can those, jalapenos, and peas if we grow peas, which we're not this year. Those are the things that we can, and jellies, different jellies. So I think this year we might try and do a watermelon jelly, maybe, if it works out. I'm not sure. It's going to be a test.
Yeah.
And we actually do a tomato jelly too.
Oh, what about potatoes?
Weren't you the one
that told me?
This is my first year growing potatoes, white potatoes.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, depending on the harvest, you are correct. We will probably at least can 1 or 2 cans just to do it.
Yeah. So those who are watching, please note that you didn't see me scramble to write this down because I listened to these episodes before they were released. So I will take copious notes then. So I do want to ask you one question regarding timing. So are you picking a bunch of tomatoes off of the plant and then canning those? Or are you picking tomatoes, putting them in the pile, like putting them in a fridge? Like, how do you get from the point of, do you have enough to can? Or do you do a lot of small batch canning?
You just asked $1 million question. No, it's part of the experience that comes with it. So you'll know how long stuff lasts. But I do, I usually, like when we go get green beans, okay, stop. Let me just start over. So by the size of the jar is what dictates how often. So we usually do small, I always get the sizes mixed up. Not the jelly jars. I think they're pint jars maybe. And the big ones are quart jars. Is that right? Well, for the sake of this conversation, that's how we're going to roll. So the pint jars, we have a... like a pressure cooker, an electric pressure cooker / canner, and you can fit 5 of those jars in, but it's nothing for you just to drop a jar in and can it. So, like green beans and stuff, we'll do that. This year, tomatoes, we might do that for those, but generally speaking, it goes either way. You just have to keep an eye on your stuff. So we put it, if we're like, okay, we want to can this, then we're going to put it in the fridge and let it sit till we get more, or we jump straight and just freeze it and don't even can it.
Yeah.
So it's usually in the heat of the moment, and that's what sucks, man, is because you're canning inside in the summertime. It's already hot outside. It's hot in front of the canner.
Yeah. But
man, it's worth it in the wintertime when you need it and you can crack it. But it's a little bit of both. You just have, like green beans, for example. We'll do a big canning session generally about once a week. Until they start really coming in, and then after that it's just kind of piece by piece by piece. Yeah. So I
have actually a book on small batch canning that after I do my morning walks, I'm gonna start cracking that open.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about reading that stuff, but I think the big thing is just trying it out.
I think it's, for me, it's more of like the different recipes, because these are basically, you're canning the vegetable. I'm thinking about a couple of different recipes for canning. And I did listen to, which I thought was very helpful, the series that you guys did on canning.
Oh, yeah, when my wife was on it? Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. She was not impressed.
Well, I was impressed, and I'm generally, after I got that first year out, like no one died. Like everyone lived that consumed what I canned. The pickles weren't great tasting, which I think it was the coriander. I think that's the flavor that I'm not a fan of.
No.
Yeah. And
you're talking about you?
Yeah, for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going
to change your world.
Yeah, I'm waiting on it, man. Rock my pickle world. So so I said all of that to say, like, I'm very, very slow to move when it comes to things like that when I'm first learning it. And while I have a lot to learn still, I got that first kind of it wasn't that bad, right? Out of the way. And I actually, for the one when I did the actual canning, I was recording it. So it was more pressure recording it than it was, actually doing it. So I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I know that it's a lot of work. I've seen a lot of videos on people talking about it's day 4 of canning,
but that's how it was back in the day. And that's how people did it. And now you're living in a time right now, where it could very well be an important thing for you to do is to can your own food. Yeah. And that's scary to think about. But if you're doing it, like, I know you want to help people out and you want to give stuff away, but maybe you should crack the canner open and do, can and put an extra can back. You never know.
I'm sorry. If you're saying maybe if you is Batavia, don't worry. That's already a part of the master plan. Okay.
I'm talking to everybody. Okay. I'm talking to all 8,000 people that have listened to us and all that stuff. Like, hey everybody. So, I mean, it's one of those things. And okay. So it's like, I hope my neighbor doesn't listen to this. I'm sure he doesn't.
You say often, I hope this person doesn't listen. Are you rooting for us or against us?
No, I just don't know if it would offend them, but I'm going to say it. So he wants peppers every year. He asked me like a month ago, hey, you got any peppers? My homie, we're just getting flowers, bro. You know what I'm saying? This isn't a grocery store. Like it has to happen.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, go get a pot and put it on your porch and put a pepper plant in there. If you like them that much, like grow your own damn peppers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind giving them to you, but when you're asking me like month or 2 before they're actually going to produce,
and every year.
Every year. And I'm like, dude, it's so easy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then we had already had the conversations. Oh, I might start a garden, but I can just come over there and eat off your garden.
No. Like, this is the same neighbor. Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, nah, it doesn't work that way, player. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm obviously would share. I wouldn't let anybody starve. But, first it's my efforts went into it. So I can't just give away everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how that works. But it's an interesting thing to think about. And, if you can't freeze. Freezing is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
So
I do. I want to comment on that just for a second. And again, we haven't talked. We haven't talked about kind of where things are, so we're in July, filming this, and it'll air in July, I think, of 2020. And we're still in the thick of things in the US when it comes to this pandemic. And we've been very clear about, we're not about fear mongering, but when you talk about canning and freezing and just in general preserving food, you just never know how much you're going to want to go out in February of next year, how much or how little, so I'm really glad that I had that startup year with canning last year, because it encourages me and gives me, I think, the confidence to try to do more of it this year. I come from a place where by default put it in the freezer, so that's also a method for me. But I say all that to say
there's nothing wrong with putting it in the freezer.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. Yeah. And it's easier to do.
Yeah. And on the flip of it, if you're not really ready to go with a canning method and, your freezer is packed, also think about it, because I look at it this way as well. I can eat more food that's fresh, over the course of the season and basically preserve what's already preserved, right? So I'm not eating as many of my canned goods this summer because I'm eating so many more fresh, items. So.
Yeah, it's when you should start canning? Seriously? The trigger for somebody to be like, I need to can, is when your freezer is packed with what you've grown, then you need to start canning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the other difference is too is your stuff can get buried in the freezer and you lose it. Versus if you can, every time you open that cabinet, cupboard, whatever you want to call it, boom, there it is. You're going to be looking right at it. And you're going to be like, oh shit, I can eat that. I got
generally,
that for
dinner. I think the life, the span, the time that, something sits canned versus frozen is you get, more time out of it when it's canned anyway, right?
Not if you freeze it right. If you freeze it right and take all the air out of it,
you
get a pretty good, you'll have to eat it within 6, 7, 8 months. But, you know, in all reality, by that time, you'll start to get that same vegetable back. So, you know, we can we freeze a lot of okra. So, you remember, I just told you about what I can, not what I froze. So, you know, we freeze a lot of okra.
Yeah.
And pretty much we freeze everything else that we grow. That if you think of it and you're like, oh, could you freeze it? That we freeze it. Yeah. There's not like, if you think of something, you're like, I wouldn't freeze that, like lettuce or something. Like, obviously we don't, but everything else we generally freeze. So, and it's, you know, it's good because it's nice to be able to pull it out. The trick is freezing it in batches in which you would only need to open it for that one meal. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the trick. So it might be easy to go in there and get you a 5-gallon bag or a gallon bag and stuff that bitch full. Yeah. But that's not what you should do, because you got to pull it out. You got to thaw it a little bit, put it back, introduce air to it. Yeah. And all this stuff. So it's a trick.
Yeah. But, so even without gardening, when you buy things in bulk, you know, I generally go smaller packaging for freezing just for that exact purpose.
Yeah.
So,
but it's more effort that goes into it, is what I'm saying. You know, and drying is also something good. I don't really dry a lot of food. Not really. I dry a lot of herbs and stuff, obviously, but we don't really dry much anymore. We do. No, I take that back. We do some drying for, you know, but we do it for specific reasons. Yeah. Like if we go backpacking or something, we'll make like little soup packets and stuff, and we'll freeze dry like green beans, or not freeze dry. We'll dry, like dehydrate like green beans and carrots and peas and stuff like that. So, but as a vegetarian or a pescatarian, an ovo-pescatarian, if you want to say, because I eat eggs, because we have chickens. And I know Batavia asked me, why don't you ever talk about your chickens? And it's because I built the damn coop and my wife takes care of them. So I really don't have much say in them, but they're there. But we eat our eggs, and then we also eat fish. So but that's it. So we've canned, we've frozen, we've cooked.
We've cried.
We've cried. There's one other thing you can do with your harvest. Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
What?
Add it to your compost?
Compost it, yeah. So, yeah.
I say because you know that the one of the things that I'm afraid of, and it's the pause I have around composting. I can't deal with the...
Put your big girl pants on and get out there and do it.
Nope.
So
not going to do it.
And there is a closed system that you won't have that issue with too.
So that we talked about this, and you couldn't promise me. You're a man of your word. You couldn't promise me.
Okay.
Nope. Yeah.
So don't be like Batavia, okay?
Don't be like me.
Don't be like Batavia. In this one instance, you can be like her in about 98%. But this one way, don't be like Batavia.
Be strong. Fight your fears. I'm giving into it. Yeah. It's in case you're not tracking, it's mice. And we're not even going to talk about the bigger versions of those. The fear of them is so strong where I've not been able to get past the Googling, composting instructions. Like, that's it. Like, I just can't. I can't risk it. I can't risk inviting them in. I mean, that's the number one question that I actually get around my garden. Like, do you have problems with, pests like that? And I'm like, no, but if I do, I'm shutting it all down. And that's just the way I roll.
Everybody, we love you guys. Hit us up on the Backyards Garden Pod on Instagram. Woo. Backyard Gardens Pod. And DM us. And let us know why Batavia should do it. Let's pressure her into taking this step.
I thought you were going to do something like send a picture or something like.
No, I'm invoking it. I'm invoking our listeners to help you do what's right for our environment, for your garden, and all the people that you help feed. And look at her look on her face. She's like, I don't give a shit what they say.
I was looking at the timestamp, because what I want them also to do is it's around the 1 hour and 18 minute-ish time, somewhere around there. So this video will also be published, right? I want you to log in, and I want you to see the video, because you need to see this face. Go ahead, write your congressman, write the president, you can write your God, but it's not going to happen. Right. I'm telling you now, ain't going to happen, Captain.
Y'all have faith in me. I got time. So the reason why I say that is because if you're not going to eat it, instead of wasting it, unless you're Batavia, you can give back to your garden. You can create nice, fertile compost based on what you grew.
100%.
Yeah. So, and Batavia has an abnormal fear, but it's okay. I understand because if I had rats, I would leave.
100%. I agree for y'all. Not me. Yeah.
No, if you get a cat, you don't have to worry about them mice anymore.
I have that's the only reason why I'm okay with all of the neighborhood cats, the stray cats here. We got a ton of them. They're my guardian angels.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they have to be.
Are you going to become a cat lady now?
No, I'm not, because I'm kind of afraid of them too. I don't trust them. I don't trust cats. They're slick, man. And I don't want to offend anyone, but
Oh, I have a cat, and she's slick as shit. And she's evil. Her name's Ahsoka. And I'm convinced that she just sits around. She's like, I could kill him right now.
They're plotting, man, always.
She's always plotting against me. Always.
And I feel like there's been a change in the cat community because, like, within the last 10 years, what I have to do for a cat to run away from me, they're always trying to make a little poop station out of my garden beds. And I have to run up on them to get them to shoo. Like, these cats now will just sit and wait and look, so they're like you and the bugs you eat. They at some point had their meeting and they said, listen, we can't run scared anymore. We have to let these humans know who's boss. So I give them their space.
So I did want to say this real quick. You're talking about me and bugs, and I just thought of this. The other day I walked outside and I was looking at I was doing my garden walk, and I saw a leaf, and I had 8 baby grasshoppers on there. Aww. And my stories with grasshoppers last year.
Yeah. I think I heard it in a recent episode I was listening to, but go on.
And I put my hand underneath the leaf, and I went just like this.
No, you did. Would you stop it?
I'm dead serious.
Oh, my
gosh. And I'm one step on winning the battle with those bastards.
Oh, good gosh.
Baby grasshoppers have no love. None whatsoever. Yeah. And I had Japanese beetles show up briefly. And they were on there just getting it, just humping away. And I was picking them up, dropping them in the water. Just boom, boom, boom. It was amazing. But yeah, those grasshoppers, man, they are, They're okay. I didn't know they were like that, but it was a good feeling. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because I know now how damaging they can be. And look, I was vegan for 6-7 years. I understand everybody if you're vegan, I know. But damn, we got to do something, man. I can't be feeding them. I got to feed myself. I got to feed the people. You know what I mean? I got to feed the people.
Yeah, the people
Don't
first,
hate. Don't hate the player, hate the game. All right. You know what time it is?
Oh.
Sizzle. And it's my turn, so I will be right back with your recipe of the day.
All right.
All right, it's hot, right?
It is.
And you just insist on hating on fruit. Well, so I'm taking it upon myself now to give fruit maximum amounts of love. Because even though I am vegetarian, I could 100 or pesca ovo, whatever you want to call it. I could 100% be a fruitarian.
Okay.
100%. So that being said, when we tried this at one point, and it's worth a try. Okay. Let me put it that way. It's worth a try. And it's a watermelon pizza. So it's all raw. Yeah. Just faith. Mm-hmm. Have the faith, okay? So when you take your watermelon, cut it so it's a slab, like a round slab. Mm-hmm. You're from Chicago. We'll just go with you. We'll go with the old thick, deep dish watermelon dough. And slice avocado and put on top of it. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's actually pretty good. Pretty good. And then you can put like strawberries or blueberries on top of it. If you just can't do.
Is the avocado like the cheese? Like the
yeah, it would act as the cheese kind of. Yeah, it's the creaminess. But if for some reason you're just like, I can't do it, then just it's kind of like making a fruit salad, but instead slice everything up and put on top of it, and then eat it with a fork and a knife. And we've done a lot of times we put strawberries on, we slice those. Which, by the way, if you don't have a strawberry slicer, you should get one. Because it changes your life when it comes to look. Let me tell you, we got one. My mother-in-law bought us one, and I told my wife, I was like, we don't need that bullshit in our house. Well, I don't need that.
This
and
is
then one
totally
day I was
anti-you. Like I'm just like
100% anti me. But one day I was in a rush, and I was like, because I like to put fresh fruit in my cereal too, and so I was like, damn, I don't know what to do, and I took and I just clamped it down and had it, and I was like, all right, I'm in it. I get it. So they're really helpful. They speed it up, but you don't have to have one. And then blueberries are another good thing. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put them in a bag and I'll smash them a little bit and put them on top so they don't roll off, because that'll piss you off when they roll off.
Yeah.
So it's a real simple thing though, but
I
that's part of...
I thought this was going to be like, you're putting this in the oven. That's the reason why I had the humongous eye roll at the beginning. Okay, all right. I can get down with it there. Yeah.
It's totally raw.
Yeah.
No, because it's, and there's a reason why, because we were talking about harvesting and I knew I wanted to do raw because I knew that was really important. And then two, I've apparently taken it on myself to give all fruit recipes because I feel like a fruitist if we don't. So I have to. And it's a weird recipe, especially when you put the avocado on it.
Yeah.
But I saw it in so many places one time that I had to try it. And it wasn't bad. It really wasn't that bad. So
I can only think of, because I love avocado. I was just thinking like, you're going to waste a good avocado,
Yeah. Well, and take a slice and put it on there and just give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But play around with it because, when you eat, the beauty of eating raw and simple is you can kind of mess around. You know what I mean? You know what everything tastes like, so you can try it out. So, but yeah, because last year I got a 50-pound watermelon out of my garden. Yeah, Papa Bear was like, oh shit, what do we do with this watermelon? We had to get creative. Yeah, there's a picture on and I think it was like 47.4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
I'm jealous. I actually went because I was nervous about the timing of it. I think I sowed my seeds like on June 1st or 2nd or something. And I went with the mini. I have seeds. Well, I have seeds for regular watermelons. Yeah. But I went with the mini watermelons because in my mind that, I had a good shot at, that plant growing into maturity and obviously the melons having a chance to ripen versus the larger ones. So I'm so looking forward to it. We'll see how this year goes with melons, but I'm like, if I could get any pound watermelon from my garden, you want to talk about, I may take up composting. I may. I'm not going to take up composting. Like, I
got excited.
I can't.
No,
I don't want to lie to you people.
No. Well, and also let me do this too, because I've after looking at your reaction, I have a feeling many people won't even want to try the avocado on it.
I'm gonna try it. I actually have. It's not homegrown, but I have a watermelon in the kitchen. And an avocado. I'm gonna try it because I believe that there's some flavors that you just don't guess are good, and then you're in that moment of like, wait a minute, hold on, So I'm gonna give it a whirl.
Yeah, give it a whirl. But there's also, you can take raspberries and mix them with oats, and then put them in the microwave and heat them up. And put a little brown sugar on them. Yeah. Just a little sprinkle. And then a little pinch of salt and eat that with the watermelon. And it's pretty good too.
Oh, and see, none of this makes sense. But this is what I came to this episode for.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we'll see.
What was the first one you gave me? Do you remember?
This episode?
Yeah, the first thing in this episode you gave me something and I was like, wait, what? Oh, the jelly with cold cereal.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Who knew?
Well, it's one of those things too.
That makes more sense though.
We've really made a push in the past really 4 years to just try and cook more simple. Because you spend, and especially if you're listening to this podcast, in this case, you spend a lot of time growing your food. You spend a lot of time taking care of it. And then you spend a lot of time cooking it. You spend a little bit of time eating it. And then you spend a lot of time cleaning up after it. Yeah, and serious. I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
It should be the other way around, where you spend less time cooking it, more time enjoying it. So like generally when we cook, everything is trying to be in one pot, maybe two, and then just quick, easy, not as many recipes. Because that was when we were vegan, man, you want to talk about complicated. When we first started, it was like, shit. Yeah, I got to have this and that and this and this and this and this. And then finally it kind of clicked and I was like, wait a second. I could just eat a half a watermelon for breakfast. I can eat 5 oranges for breakfast. Yeah. And that's pretty damn good. I'm cool with that. So that's how we go. And obviously, if you look at me, you can tell it worked out pretty damn good. So
I feel like mark the time, because that's a timestamp right there. Like that, you've said it. You've exactly said it. I love that whole. We spend a lot of time. 15 minutes later, you're done with your meal, and it's kind of like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, so, I mean that's the thing. You sit down, like when you cook Thanksgiving dinner. You spend all day cooking it, and then you eat it in 15 minutes. You're done. Yeah. And everybody's fighting about who gets to take the nap while everybody else suffers in the kitchen. So cleaning.
I do. I like simple. I like it.
Simple is, I think simplifying the way we eat has been amazing. And what else it's done is when we do go out to eat, like especially to a nice restaurant, it's so much better because you're like, oh, okay, this is it's
more
fabulous.
Of an event.
Yeah. So, do you think we've told everybody how to use their harvest?
Yes, that was me thinking.
Yeah, you were thinking pretty hard on that one.
I was ticking off the items. Yeah. And then I got distracted by the compost, and I was like, then I had to pull back from being frightened in my head. And then, yes, I do.
So this has been one hell of an episode.
Do you think we've covered everything that everyone needs to know about using their harvest?
No, I don't, but we don't have 5 more hours. So, well, seriously, it comes down to, the last thing I really want to say about it is when you harvest, like it depends on what you grow and how you use it.
Sure.
It really does. Each vegetable is different. Each fruit is different. Some things have more uses than the others. And sometimes you just need to dig a little deeper and find another use for it if you can. Yeah. But don't waste your food. Give it to somebody. Put it on the curb in a basket. And I think that's the one we definitely talked about it throughout, but giving it away is so much better than wasting it. Like share what you grow with people. Yeah, let them taste the enjoyment of having fresh food.
Absolutely.
I think that's so important. Don't just show pictures of it on Instagram. Get off of there and give your food to somebody and change a life that way. Right? This is my serious face.
Yes.
Do it now.
I'm thinking about the watermelon and avocado.
You're hung up on it, aren't you?
I'm not nervous. I'm a little bit excited that I could love it. Now, your face and the way you described it didn't tell me love, but you just never know.
I got an idea. We'll pause and you go get it and try it right here on camera.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, come on.
No, we'll do it for the next episode. No.
Look at her. She's like... She's scared. Do it for the listeners.
We'll do it for the next. We'll do it the next episode. I'm sure.
Oh yeah. All right. Batavia's no fun today.
No, I'm still recovering. It's been an emotional ride for me, though. So
I was gonna say we've laughed, we've cried. I don't think we got mad, but you never know. Yeah. It's been a good one. So that being said, check us out, Backyard Pod. Instagram, Backyard Gardens, YouTube, and our individual YouTubes. Do you have anything you want to tell the people?
Happy summer.
Yeah.
Right? So we started this back. Yeah, right. We started this back. It was still winter. We were talking about gardening when spring came. We've transitioned to summer. Like, this is the happiest version of Batavia that exists. Right? So, like, again, strap in, guys and gals. This is, I'm hoping it's the same for you all, even with all that's going on in the world. Like, this time speaks to my spirit, and I'm happy to be here with y'all.
Yeah, find your happy place. Get out in your garden, enjoy it, stay safe.
Yes.
Check us out in all our spots. Be safe, be happy, wear your mask, learn to grow for change, harvest your food, harvest it right, harvest it good, and use it up.
See ya.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. You can find us at Backyard Gardens the Movie on Facebook and Backyard Gardener on Instagram. And YouTube is Backyard Gardener, where I'm doing videos showing cooking and building gardens and gardening tips, all kinds of good stuff. And you can find Batavia at...
You'll find me on Instagram at B_BetterGarden. And then you'll find me on Facebook, same name. And then I'm also over on YouTube at Be Better Garden. I am sharing #GardenJoy every chance I get. I hope you enjoy.
So if you have any questions, hit us up on all of our platforms, anywhere you want, and we will be more than happy to help you with what you can. And again, thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time. Cut.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.